Welcome to the Strenuous Life Radio, the podcast for leaderpreneurs, entrepreneurs, men and women learn the essentials and soft skills of the strenuous life. Okay, this is episode 138, and what we're talking about here is the dangers of tyranny. Now, listen to me. On my show, Empower Your Pattern, I talk about an ideology called a wisdom ideology. And that's something that few people in this current discourse in modern politics fail to get on both sides of the aisle. Okay, so this is not, in my opinion, this is not a reactive political commentary. Not that I haven't considered at one time during my college age of being a radio talk show host on political issues. I have my own opinion. But to be bluntly honest with you, I think a lot of discussion in politics has gotten way hyper-reactive. And the one thing I learned through my political training, my political science training, is keep any reactive ideological discussions out of the decent deal of discourse or dialogue, okay? But that's something that maybe some people in my generation and younger fail to get. Now, you're probably thinking, well, Jimmy, why do you feel that way? What's that? Well, okay, I'm going to be as honest with you as I can. I think it's been going on for over 30 years, this descent into reactivity. Now, when I talk about tyranny, I'm talking about really any government, whether it's our current Republican form of government. And yeah, I know many people feel that this country is a democracy. But I'm the type of person that agrees with historian David Barton. This country was not meant to be a democracy. Okay? It's something I learned in my political theory class. You've heard me mention, those of you who listen also to Empower Your Pattern, you also heard me talk about Dr. Abraham Mendelsohn. And the one thing, what I'm trying to say is, the one thing that he taught me is that people in this country have, in many ways, figured out lost sight of what a pure democracy is. He said there's many ideologues on both sides of the aisle who are trying to say that they're furthering democracy. He said history has shown that we tried a pure democracy in ancient Greece. He said, guess what, guys? It didn't work out. He said, and so that's why in my ancient medieval political theory, I'm trying to help you figure out your own political theory and beliefs. Besides having to depend on others, besides having to listen to all the reactivity. And I remember it was about 7.5 years later, I was in his health care policy and administrations class, and there was this woman. Well, I'm trying to come up with a good name, not to ruin any subscribers. We'll call her we'll give her the male name of Anthony, okay? Anthony walked in discussing healthcare policy, and she was a clear ideologue, okay? She was down the president and all this stuff, and by the time she was done, poor Dr. Mendelsohn was it was like beside himself, okay? He's like, whoa, wait a minute. He said, we're here to have a healthy dialogue. He said, rule number 1 in my class, keep your ideology at the door. Keep it at the door. And see, that helps. Because in some fields like journalism, okay, journalism is one of those that has gone into a descent of who's trying to defend whose ideology the fastest. Okay, so I feel like we're off topic. When we have dealt with tyranny, we've met with disaster. Those of you who are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, you've read the war chapters in the Book of Mormon, where there is this man who leads away many of the ancient American civilization to try to consider him king. I mean, he has 2 unique societies competing against one another. Okay, and so he thinks no doubt that he is doing people service by doing that. And so what he does is he further divides a society which sadly at the time was coming close to destruction. It was a country divided. It was a civil war, and of course there was this other culture that was against that particular ancient culture, and they went in with the dissenters and Amalakiah in trying to defeat that culture. And so, see, because of our reactive culture, we have to be careful about tyranny. Okay, we have to be careful about tyranny. And you're probably thinking, Jimmy, this is meant to be a show about entrepreneurship. But there's one thing I learned in my business management classes at Odessa College early last decade. If you want to be an effective businessman or businesswoman, you need to know what's going on in the world around you. Now, that being said, I agree with that. I agree with that, but the problem is where to go. It's gotten to where I don't watch that much TV news. No, to be bluntly honest with you, I prefer to go to the magazines and newspapers of the day to some extent, my ideology, and go to kind of the internet discussion boards and multiple and bulletin boards. Yeah, those of you in my generation who remember back in the BBS days when I was going to college, high school and college in the 1990s, the bulletin board services at BBS's was a place I feel like decent dialogue was getting, where people were actually getting informed. And now I think that that's dying out. I think a healthy sense of being informed is dying out because, quite frankly, our culture, our society is being reactive. And it's like I was discussing with a friend of mine yesterday. One of the things that she said is that, and this is something that I've known for years, and I've told her this, that a lot of the news media, they want to scare people. And there's two things that sell. This is something that became very clear, in some of the early parts of my Empower Your Pattern Conquest of Truth series about Dr. Jerry Murchison. He taught us early on in that semester, spring semester of 1996, features and documentaries, that two things sell: violence and sex. So they're trying to sensationalize and scare people. Well, to me, that's a turn off. You should be able to get informed in any way that you need to without just absolutely going nuts. And see, reactivity, I think, isn't a part of tyranny, because we've descended into this Amalakiah style form of political tyranny. And that's about as far as I'm willing to go. Hope you've enjoyed listening to Strenuous Life Radio. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to become a part of the Strenuous Life Radio family. This is Jimi Hendrix saying until next time, think strong, and live the strenuous life. And God bless you.